Hey guys, welcome back to a new video in the testing playlist. Now in this video we'll be setting up our Retrofit API for the images future. Here it is. We click on this container, we can search for an image like OK. We get a bunch of images that we can choose from. We can select any image that we want and the image is displayed in there. So that's what this API is used for, to search for images. So let's get started with it. So let's go to the core package right here in data, create a new one called remote, in which we'll have all our remote stuff. And here we'll have another one called DTO, and then another one called API, in which we'll have the API itself. So we'll use the Pixabay API. We can just click on Explore, go to API right here, and then click on Get Started. You'll find your API key down here. I'm not going to scroll because I don't want you to see my API key. Anyway, you'll find your API key right there. Just copy it and let's use it. Okay, so let's go now to our DTO and let's create our DTOs first. And this is how it's going to look like. We have a lot of things, but we are not interested in anything but this image URL. Okay, so let's go to DTO and paste the two DTOs that we have. So image list as well. So what we get from the API is an image list DTO in which we don't need this, in which we have these heads. As you can see, this heads is a list of images. We also have total and total heads, but we don't actually need those. We can technically delete them if we want, because we won't actually need them anyway. And then this list is of type image DTO, in which we just have this preview URL, and here it is. But I guess I was using actually the preview previously in my app, so now I'm going to use actually this one, which is the image URL itself. So the preview was very fast to load, but it's just for previewing, not exactly for using. Okay, so I'm going to use the image URL this time. Okay, these are the DTOs that I have. And now let's set up our API. That's going to be an interface. So images API interface actually. In here we'll have a suspend function search images or something like that. Want to annotate it with get and then import get from Retrofit to. Let's create some space down here. The URL is going to be /API/ because before this that's going to be the base URL and then the query and then the API key. Okay, so the first thing is the query that you want to search for. It is query. It's a query of type string, but I want to take this actually from here. This function doesn't have to have a body, it should be here. And then the second thing is the key. So that's key, and that's kind of API key of type string by default. It's going to be, but I don't have that yet. Constants.API key, I'm going to add that, and it returns an image list DTO. Okay, that's nullable in case something goes wrong. Now let me just paste this constants, or instead of creating them in a constants, let me just create a companion object right here. So companion object, actually it is exactly this one. This is the base URL, and then const var API key, and then you paste your API key right here. Let's use that as the default value. Okay, so that's it for the API now. And let's go to our DI and provide that right here. So right here, let's create some space. This one again is going to be a singleton, provides fun, provide images API. It's going to return images API and then return retrofit dot builder dot add converter factory. That's going to be JSON converter factory dot create, import that like this, and then dot base URL, that's going to be my images API dot base URL, and then dot build dot create images API double common class dot Java. So we provided our API and we're good. We just copy this for the other one, which is core DI right here. We'll provide it again, but in fact we won't use this API in testing. We just need it, so we'll provide it right here, but we won't use it anyway. Now what we want to create is our images model that is going to look like this image DTO actually. So let's just close this, go to domain, and let's actually close all of this as well because that's a lot. Inside model, let's create images. That's going to be a data class, and it's going to be a vol images of type list of image, or actually string, because we want the string URL. Okay, so here we have it. Now we want to create a mapper that converts in remote DTO, converts this DTO to our model. And let me just paste it here to save time. So it's called image mapper and it returns an image. Now we don't want the preview URL but the image URL itself. Okay, let's just delete everything in here, and that's it. That's the mapper. So I map all the heads and I get image DTO, I get an image URL to my images. Okay, it's a list. If it's null, then I put an empty list. And then the last thing I want to do here is create my repository of these images. So that's going to be inside core again, domain repository, and it's going to be called images repository. That's going to be an interface, and we'll have one function that is suspend fun search images or something like that. Okay, that takes an image query or a query, just let's call it only query of type string, and it returns images, not a list of images, but images like this. That is nullable in case we don't get anything. Now let's create an implementation for that. So let's go close that in core, close everything in repository right here. So that's going to be images repository implementation, like that. That implements images repository, overrides all those functions that we want. Only one. We want to, of course, inject the constructor to this one. Inject constructor. That's going to take, let's create some space first. Our API, private val images API, is going to be of type images API. And then inside here, we get a query, as you can see, that we want to use to search. So we want to return our images API.search image, passing our query, and that is nullable.toImages. That's it. Now we just want to create a fake version of it. So let's go now to our test and core. So right here, we want to create the fake version, and I'm just going to paste it for you so we could save some time again. So here it is. Maybe now this one is search images, this one returns images, like that. Okay, so here it is. This is the fake version, and what's happening here is that we return a list of images. So we simulate that we get to our API and then we get images. You can see a list of image URLs. But if we set this should return error, let's assume we have no internet connection or so, and then we set this to true, then if that is true, it will return no. So it just means we don't have any internet connection. And then we want to copy this fake images repository and then create the underwood version of it. So in core data repository, create it again, but now fake underwood images repository. And it's going to be the same thing. It's just that we need it in both of these two tests. And that's it for this video. The next video will start building our search image use case and also test it. So see you and bye.